Welcome and good evening to the City of Shakopee City Council meeting for August 3rd, 2022. Item number 1, if we could call the roll, please.
Councilmember Brennan? Here. Councilmember Lehman? Here. Councilmember Whiting?
Here.
Councilmember Contreras?
Here.
Mayor Mars?
Here. Thank you very much. Item number 2, if we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 3, approval of the agenda. Mr. Reynolds, are there any changes, corrections?
No, sir, not on the agenda itself, but I do have something for the consent.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Brennan, second by Councilor Contreras, to approve the agenda as stated. Further discussion? Discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Thank you. Item number 4, consent business. Mr. Reynolds, any changes, corrections?
Yes, sir, if we can pull 4B1 off, I'd appreciate it.
4B1, coming off. Others, Councilor Lehman.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as modified, removing 4B1.
I'd second that.
I have a motion and a second by Councilor Whiting. I have a motion on the floor with a second for the modified consent agenda. There would be no further discussion. Before we vote, we would read the consent agenda into the public record. Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. These are the consent agenda items for 3 August of 2022. 4A1 approves the city council meeting minutes for 12 and 19 July of 2022. 4C1 adopts resolution R 2022 TAC 104 setting the public hearing date for vacation of public drainage and utility easements in Lot 2, Block 1, Bear Ringers, First Edition. 4D1 authorizes a cooperative maintenance agreement between Scott County and Shakopee to implement and operate an advanced traffic management system for the traffic signal located at Southbridge Parkway and Old Carriage Court. 4D2 approves a contract with BKJ Excavating in the amount of $124,926 for the Quarry Lake Park Restroom Improvements Project, which is PR Tech 21 TAC 006. 4D3 adopts Resolution R 2022 TAC 106, approving plans and specifications in order of the advertisement for bids for the Lions Park Pickleball Court Project, PR TAC 221 TAC 004, and that would be the last item.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. I have a motion and a second for the modified consent agenda. It has been read into the public record. There would be no further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes. Thank you very much. Now, item number 5. I'd like to call on any resident that would like to come forward and make comment on an item not on the agenda tonight. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record on an item not on the agenda. Mr. Reynolds, have we received any electronic communication?
No, sir.
Seeing none, then we would move forward to business removed from consent, which is one item, 4B1. And Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We actually have some people that would like to talk about this donation. It is a monetary donation for aquatic programming. We've actually talked about this before,
Right.
And the impact it's had on some of the members of the community, some who were really afraid to get in the water, even. And so with that being said, Sherry, if you would.
Yep.
Welcome, Sherry. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. We are here tonight to ask for the approval of Resolution 2022-098, a resolution accepting a monetary donation of $1,000 on behalf of Sue Westgard. Before we ask that you take the action, there are a few individuals here tonight, including Caitlin Meyer, our aquatic supervisor, that would like to tell you a little bit more about the program.
Yeah.
So I invite them up now to
Good evening.
share with
Welcome.
you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. I'm Caitlin Meyer, the aquatic
advisor with the Parks and Rec Department. So in the fall of 2021, Sue came to me with a desire to create a Learn to Swim program specifically for women in our community who are missed by traditional swimming lessons opportunities because of different cultural constraints. And originally, this program was designed to help Muslim women in our community, but it has grown to help women from a diverse set of backgrounds and immigrants to our country. So, after meeting with her and Penny Brown, a teacher at the Southwest Intermediate School, this program was born, and we had our first session in January of 2022, working with 15 women from ages 17 to 65, and this summer we have had our second session working with 19 women, a couple being returning and many being new. Many of these women had no prior swimming experience and were very timid to get in the water. On the first day, many of them did not want to enter the water, had a hard time submerging and holding their breath, but we had just finished our 4th week, and many of them can swim at least some distance on their own now and are very eager to come to class. So in this class, we work on independently floating swimming distances, being able to jump into deep water, surface, tread water, and be able to get to safety, as well as talk about other safety topics, because let's face it, we live in Minnesota. It's inevitable you'll find yourself around water at some point. So seeing the increased confidence these women have and the knowledge they've gained to keep themselves safe has been amazing. And aside from learning these skills, we've really built a community between these women and our volunteers, and then our lifeguard staff who come and help weekly. Sue's donation makes this program possible at low to no cost to these women and has provided them with life-saving knowledge about how to swim that they did not have before. Sue, we cannot thank you enough for this. You have touched the lives of these women and helped these staff and volunteers grow as individuals, and one of our participants from our first program, who is participating again in our second program, would also like to speak, so I'd like to introduce Pradama.
Good evening and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Katie.
Oh, I think sitting it might push it down.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. Hello, everyone. I'm Pratima Bhatta, and I'm originally from Nepal. I have been residing here in United States since October 2016. I have always been eager to do something new. Since I'm from the country where English is not the primary language, I attended adult education classes at Southwest Metro Adult Education Center here in Shakopee. Last winter, my teacher, Miss Penny Brown, announced that an opportunity for free swimming lessons. I was the happiest person in the classroom. From my childhood, I had always interest in swimming. Due to the different culture and tradition, swimming is not that easy for the girls. To be honest, I visited different lakes with my family, but I only walk in the water with my kids. You might be surprised that I have never been in swimming pool before. I started the class taught by Katie Meyer. I was scared to enter the swimming pool for the first time because I did not know how to float at the water. My instructor taught me how to float front and back, how to move my feet and hand. Now, I am very confident in deeper water. I have gained confidence in my ability to swim. My children are finished their first set of swimming lessons. I have started to bring both of my kids to swimming pool in the community center. I am comfortable. I can handle them in the water now. We spend most of our free time in the swimming pool. I am now in my second set of swimming class. I can float, tread water, jump off the diving board, and swim the length of the pool. I would like to thank Miss Sue Westgard, a member of community center for providing the financial donation required for these classes. I am thankful for everybody who involved in this program for providing us with the opportunity to learn how to be safe in the water. Thank you.
Wow, thank you.
So with that, we ask that you go ahead and approve Resolution 2022-098, accepting the monetary donation of $1,000 from Sue Westgard.
Counselor Whiting?
I would be happy to. It's great in the land of more than 10,000 lakes that folks have the opportunity to learn how to swim. So thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity for those that need it. So with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution R 2022-098, accepting the monetary donation of $1,000 from Sue Westergaard.
Second.
I have a motion and a second by Counselor Contreras. Discussion? Counselor Brennan?
Thank you again, Sue, for the donation. It's a great program. Obviously, having your the people that are using the donation here is really a testament to it. And so I appreciate the stories that she was telling us, and the way that she is showing herself and her strength and bringing it to her family and helping them to be strong in what they're doing. So thank you.
Counselor Contreras?
Thank you, Mayor. Sue, thank you so much. You're changing lives. It is hard as a woman who has a different background. Sometimes you're misunderstood. You're like, why? Can't you just be normal? Well, that is their normal, and it's hard. So thank you for looking beyond, looking at those differences and not judging and saying, hey, there's an opportunity, and you took it. So thank you. And to Miss also Penny Brown, the teacher, who also encouraged these, ladies to go in and try it, because you have to face a fear. It's a fear. I mean, believe me, I know. So thank you so much. And these awesome stories, they're just awesome. They're beautiful to hear. So thank you, ma'am.
Counselor Whiting?
Just a final thought. I think, this might have started as a brainchild years ago from the Diversity Alliance, and then has diversified and grown and created even a greater opportunity from just that event to program, I think. So congratulations and thank you.
Counselor Lehman?
Thank you, Mayor. Going back a few years, I've got a lot of experience in this area of gift of swimming, is what it was called. My older sister, was a director for many years of a nonprofit organization in Florida called Gift of Swimming, to teach younger kids to swim because of the high injury and death rate being surrounded by water. Learning to swim is a gift, and it could possibly save lives. So, good program. Everybody should know how to swim, or at least know how to tread water and be able to save yourself. And hopefully you can pass on what you learned to your children and others, and we can really teach people how to have that gift of swimming and potential of saving themselves if need be. So thank you for all your efforts.
Yeah, I think my comments are, mirror some of this. I grew up on Lake Superior. The life skill of swimming was vitally important at a young age in our family, but not all people get that opportunity. So this program and this donation gift from the Westgard family, and we all give in certain areas all the time throughout a year, but to be able to see that your donation connects with the community center and the aquatic center, and then actually have real stories, tangible, that you can see, touch, feel. I mean, hearing that story just, thank you very much. We have a very diverse community. There's a direct connection and a positive impact to the community in your donation and efforts, and you're seeing that. I think, like I said, this is the second year, and now we have some stories to tell, and that's the real win in this. Thank you.
Mayor, if I may?
Yeah.
The great thing about this is that once a group learns, that group then can teach others, and then that group is larger, and the larger group can teach more, And now you have, instead of 1 or 2 instructors teaching 6, you have multiple families teaching extended family and friends and relatives, and it just, you don't get no better than free, right?
That's great. If there's no further comment, I do have a motion and a second on the table to accept this generous donation in regard to this program. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's move ahead here then to item number 7. I would entertain a motion to recess for our EDA meeting. Counselor Lehman.
Mayor, I make a motion to recess for the EDA meeting.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? We stand in recess. Madam Chair, the floor is yours. Madam President.
Thank you. I call to order the Economic Development Authority meeting of August 3rd, 2022. If staff can please note the roll. All of us are present. Item number 2 is the approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Number 3 on the agenda is the consent business, and the consent business tonight is the EDA minutes from July 19th. Mr. Lehman?
Madam President, I'll move the consent agenda.
There's been a motion and a second by Contreras to approve the consent business. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Next on the agenda is the general business, and item number 4A is an update on the River City Center. And Michael Kursky is presenting.
And board members, so we just thought we would update you. We have engaged Cross Anderson. They're in the process of pricing out the project. As some of you are aware, prices are very high right now. We will be back to you with a final pricing number, but before that, we'll probably bring back a contract for professional services so we can at least move plans forward. They feel that given the number of calls after people saw the last meeting, there's a lot of people interested in retail work because there's not a lot of that going on right now for storefronts and things like that, so they're hoping that we can get more competitive pricing. Right now, the project's, their original hard cost estimate was about $1.5 million. As of yesterday, it was about $2.5 million, but they are carrying an $800,000 contingency just based on not knowing what prices would be like. But I think once we get real plans, I mean, those are based off some renderings. They feel pretty comfortable we'll be able to get that down to a more reasonable number. The CDA is meeting on next Thursday to approve the assignment of the leases. All of the tenants have signed over their leases to the EDA, so they've issued estoppel certificates to Scott County Title so that we can have clear title on the property. One of the twists that occurred today is there are actually 2 tax bills on the property. I know some of the council wanted to know how much the property paid in taxes. It's actually just the retail portion pays over $100,000 a year as of today. So we will be working with Scott County to see why there is a difference in the tax bills. The CDA has actually been paying some of the taxes and the tenant's been paying some of the taxes, so we need to get that straightened out. But from a cash flow standpoint, with the leases in place, we will be getting a discount from the number that you saw because some of the tenants have paid rent in advance. So the amount the EDA will have to pay to buy out the lease will be slightly less. One of the tenants paid 6 months rent in advance, so we will get a credit for that 6 months. So we're plugging along. As I said to our financial person today, this is like an onion. The more we peel back, the more we find. Mr. Reinhardt and I did have a really good conversation with our outside tax increment and finance counsel the other day. They feel pretty comfortable that we'll be able to finance this internally, and there's a significant amount of cash flow from the project, so that's not really a concern. He said this is a pretty unusual project because it was done so long ago and the agreements are so complicated that basically we need to kind of clean this slate and do some simple agreements. And I think we have conceptual buy-in from the CDA and its board that this really needs to get cleaned up so that we all can understand the agreements.
Okay. Is there any questions, Mr. Lehman?
Thank you, Madam President. Ms. Kersky, on the staff memo, there's a sentence that says Suntide is no longer taking rents and managing the property, so who will be doing that?
So, Madam President and board members, we have worked out with the finance office, so rents will actually now be coming to the EDA through the city.
Even though the agreements with the CDA and stuff haven't been finalized?
No, so that will happen once, so next Friday, tentatively, if we can get everything lined up, the transfer of the existing master lease will be transferred over to the EDA. We will pay the existing master tenant, let's say, I think it was $300,000, and all the rents for future and prorated for the month of August will come to us. But in order to get the tenants to sign their estoppel certificates, they all had to be in good standing because that's how we got clean title from the title company.
So who's going to manage the property?
It'll be the city, and we're talking to Great Lakes Management, who's the current manager for the upper floors, to manage the day-to-day kind of utilities or any issues we have.
Okay. Is there any other questions? Mr. Myers?
Madam President, Michael, in regard to the, I know that we're thinking about enhancing, upgrading some of this stuff, but also there's looks like some deferred maintenance that needs to be done, is that correct? And is that a subject of who had not done that? Suntide has not done the work, or the CDA hasn't been?
So Madam President, board members, the EDA has maintained kind of from above the first floor, so as part of the agreement, the EDA would not be responsible for anything above the first floor. That's similar to what Suntide's current, and it's not Suntide, they're the property manager, it's River City Center Limited Partnership, something. I can honestly say, based on our evaluation of the building, really haven't put any money in 20 years.
No money in the commercial first floor for 20 years?
Yes. So, I mean, and to their defense, can't believe I'm saying this, but they have been paying a base rent to the CDA every year that's been covering the bonds that the city's been on the hook for. That will be paid off next year, and that's been, I think, one of the items that's crippled the project. So the rent was so high that there was really no money left at the end of the day. As part of our agreement with the CDA, those bonds are actually held by the city, that we're going to work with the company that's holding the escrows to have them roll that in to pay down the rest of that bond. And our agreement with the CDA would be to bifurcate the building, that the EDA would control the retail portion, the CDA would take care of the upper portion. The EDA would do the sidewalks and the parking lot once improvements are completed. Right. And anything else in the building is the CDA's responsibility.
So next year, President, so next year when the bonds drop off, it would carry more cash flow to possibly help with the financing of the enhancements and deferred maintenance, correct?
Madam President, board members, yes. So it cash flows right now, after the first tax payment, about $300,000. They've been paying a couple hundred of that right now to the CDA for the bonds.
Okay, I understand that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions?
And again, this was we have spent a lot of money on legal time because no one could take apart these agreements, and so they quite honestly were just a mess. And I understand back then this was a very difficult project. It was highly controversial, and everybody had to kind of put their oar in the water to make it work. The downside of that is it never really has worked. So I think the CDA is in agreement that this needs to just get straightened out for everyone's benefit.
Okay. I have talked to a couple of the renters, the retail people, and I know that they have been starting to get notification from Suntide. So I know that is progressing.
We're making progress. It's very slow and painful, but we are making progress.
Okay. Mr. Lehman?
Madam President, if they're getting notification from Suntide, you think the second thought they had is, okay, who do I contact? So is there somebody from our side making contact also?
So Madam President, board members, once we get all the legal agreements hopefully resolved sometime this week, I will be visiting every tenant personally and talking about going forward. Some of the tenants, they did not allow them to read, you know, they were very long agreements they had to sign, but basically the agreements say your lease is standing, you know, everything you've signed in the past stands and is guaranteed. So I think there was some concern from some of the tenants that they were going to get evicted. As long as they pay their rent, nothing happens. So,
Well, I'm asking on the maintenance side, because it says Suntide is no longer going to be doing any of the maintenance work, so.
so Madam President and board members, they never really did any maintenance. So all the leases right now, if you're the tenant, you're responsible for everything. Your mechanical, I think the part that has not been maintained, as Board Member Mars pointed out, is the exterior of the building, which is not the tenant's responsibility. And so that's really the leakage, the storefronts that are failing. Those are not a tenant's responsibility. Typically, that's a landlord responsibility. And to be honest, they haven't had the cash flow or the interest to do anything.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? So this doesn't require any
No, ma'am.
decisions tonight, and you'll be coming back in the next EDA meeting, or what's the
Next
timeframe?
EDA meeting, Madam President, will be bringing back kind of a scope of work, because hopefully by then we'll have everything signed, and by then we'll have at least a good agreement that you can adopt with the CDA, and then their board will also adopt that agreement.
Okay.
Our attorney and I are going to their board meeting, I think it's next Thursday.
Okay. Anything else on that? Okay, item number 4A is a facade request for 138 Lewis Street. 4B, I'm sorry, 4B, thank you. Mr. Kursky?
So this is for Bill's Toggery Building. So this is the current facade, and basically what they're doing is replacing the windows and doors with a more energy efficient, thermally broken window system that will also be black. The windows on the upper floors are already black. The benefit of doing that, we're hoping, is on the main facade, there is this column on the corner, the other building, that exists behind one of these columns. So the hope is that we'll be able to uncover that as part of this project. So the cost of this project is under that amount where the council, I think, or the EDA board had thought most of the grant should be.
Okay.
He
Is there
did
any
get 2 bids, and we're good to go.
Okay. Is there any questions from the council, Mr. Lehman?
Thank you, Madam President. First, kudos on the application. It's really complete, and that's good. But the question I had was, are there ballards downtown in front of some of these large glass windows?
Mr. Kursky?
You're talking about street bollards to protect? No. No, these are all safety glass, so if they break, particularly the new ones, they'll break into the smaller piece of glass.
Well, I'm thinking about vehicles going into the building. I see there's like, I don't know, a foot of brick on the bottom, which will stop at the tires, but, well, it's probably more than a foot. Okay.
So Shakobee's become known as the where you drive your car into a building city recently. So I understand your concern, but luckily none of them have been in the downtown. It's mostly been houses that have been hit. So.
Right. Well, and there's some poles here and there, and there's, you know.
Curb. They have to jump the curb.
Okay.
The applicant is here if you have any questions.
Yeah, Madam President, I had one other question. There was a tuck pointing grant, and I can't remember when that was. The application says the last one was some roof work roughly 10 years ago, and I don't recall how long ago the tuck pointing was. I believe the father was still running the business at the time, so if the applicant could tell us when that might have been.
Did
Yeah,
you
I
have
just
a
had the
comment?
same question, Mr. President. I believe, and it was my understanding, that they're free and clear of the forgivable loan well in advance of
Yep.
5 years of their last application. Yep.
Madam President, board members, I've been here 6 years in July, and haven't never applied while I've been here, so.
Okay. Did you have any questions? The applicant is here. Did you have any questions for the applicant? I'm surprised he made it out of downtown Shakopee and.
That's right.
You won't be able to park on your way back, I just want to tell you that. You won't be able to park on the way back.
Nice shirt. Where'd you get that?
Can you introduce yourself, please?
Sorry, I'm Billy Wormuskirchen. I'm the owner of the business mentioned here at 138 South Lewis Street. Bill Stoggery, it should be Calm Seas. It's the entity I own the building under. Yeah, so these windows here that you're looking at, I think those are from 1963 when my grandpa expanded to the Red Owl there. So they're single pane, very inefficient windows. We'd be putting in triple pane, more efficient, and then black to match the rest of the building. There's, in one of the first picture that Michael put up has one more, that one right there, between the window and the green. There's a column there behind that. I'm pretty sure that we should be able to expose and match to that, which will be really cool. That used to be 2 windows to the Red Owl store, but, and that back dry cleaner's door is absolutely awful. It's unusable right now. So, yeah, in regards to your question on the, I've lived through one drive through my window in my lifetime. My dad had one come down from the library, 3-year-old kid, drove through our window, and but they've never gotten inside the tires have stopped. So,
Well, let's hope it stays that way, right?
Mr. Whiting?
So to address that, were these windows going to be the same type down to that point, or are they going to be full size all the way to the
it'll
ground?
be a complete replacement. The only difference is that that window right there is really large and it's super expensive to replace in one plate. So they got to run a pane through that one.
Do it 2 panes?
Other than that, it should be very much the same. There's 2 apartment doors that go upstairs. Those are going to be keypad entries, so they're safer and less, not have to put a key inside of it.
Okay. And I see you added the historic preservation element, if we can get that wrought iron column out there, so
Yeah,
appreciate that.
absolutely. I had a dream of taking that green space and putting a one-way mirror on there so people in the dressing room could see out, but you couldn't see in. But I'm told the
That'd be really
sunlight
cool.
doesn't, so that's not going to be part of it. There's dressing rooms behind there, but it'd be
Thank you,
iconic.
that's all I had.
So, yeah, what was your question?
No, I just wanted to know if you're going to go full
Yes.
size or back to that same level. So there is that curb, I guess you could call it, or I'm sure there's an architectural term I'm forgetting, but the little level up a couple feet, that's where you're going to start the windows. Okay.
What he's asking is the brick from the sidewalk to the bottom of the window is going to stay?
Oh, yes. None of that structurally is going to change at all. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Madam President?
Mr. Mars?
I had a question of staff. Obviously, I didn't, maybe I missed it. We have enough money in this fund to cover this, obviously, right?
Yes, sir.
'Cause I don't think we used it last year.
Okay, Mr. Mars?
Madam President, I'd like to offer a motion for a reimbursable facade loan for 138 Lewis Street for replacements of windows in the amount of $28,995, which is 50% of the total cost of $57,990.
There's been
Second.
a motion and a second by Contreras. Is there any questions? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Number 5 on the agenda is the EDA bill list. Is there any questions regarding the EDA bill list? Okay. Number 6 is adjournment. Ms. Contreras?
Make a motion to adjourn to Tuesday, September 6, 2022 at 7 p.m.
Been a motion? Is there a second? Mr. Lehman seconds. For adjournment, all those in favor say aye. Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
We will reconvene this August 3rd, 2022 City of Shakopee City Council meeting We just completed our EDA portion of our meeting, and we're back in business on 9A1, which is a preliminary and final plat for River Valley Business Park and rezoning. Michael, welcome back.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Again, this is a preliminary and final plat for River Valley Business Park and a rezoning of property from agricultural preservation AG to rural residential and to business park BP. So the application was done by the Opus Group and the Tice Trust. It creates 3 lots and 1 outlot, along with a new public roadway and storm ponds. 1 lot for the existing house to the north will remain. The second and third lots are for 2 buildings within the business park and retention ponds. The rezoning is to rural residential for the existing house and business park BP for the new development. So this is the site. This is the site that was annexed in a year or so ago, and you can see the existing house up here. So basically what we're going to be doing is drawing a line there. This will be its own parcel, and they've worked out an easement agreement to make sure they have access to a public right-of-way for that house. So here's the preliminary plat for the River Valley Business Park. Here's the final plat, and here is the concept plan. So get this to work. There's a proposed roundabout up here that would come down. This is a access to the truck court. There's another driveway down here that accesses the parking for the building. There's a temporary cul-de-sac here. They will be providing the dedication of this road. There's an adjacent parcel to this. If you look at the map here, this is also proposed in the comprehensive plan to be a business park. This is also another business park use. This site currently is under contract to Palmer Bus. This site is still in agricultural use. Eventually that road will come through here, go through this parcel, and end up down at this cul-de-sac, and then Palmer Bus will be able to access it here. So this is kind of a much larger piece, but this is the first kind of domino to fall. So again, here is their layout with landscaping, and then here is the proposed roundabout along with the necessary county road improvements for the project. And then this will be your rezoning. The kind of salmon color is the business park, and then the small lot that's a lighter color is the piece that will be rural residential that will remain a residence. So again, 2 motions tonight. One is to adopt Resolution R22-096, approving the preliminary and final plat of the River Valley Business Park, and then adopting Ordinance O-2022-17, approving the rezoning of the property from Agricultural Preservation AG to both rural residential and business park.
Councilor Lehman.
Mayor, I've got a host of questions, so if you bear with me, I'll just go through them. Do we need a comprehensive plan amendment to actually guide this property if it's currently agricultural preserve to something?
Mayor and Council, no. So if you remember, we're required to bring in property similar to what the county zoning was. So it was brought in as agricultural preserve because it was in green acres in the county. So that way, when they come into the city, they're not paying as high a taxes if this had been zoned business park automatically. In the comprehensive plan, it's already zoned for business park.
Okay. Second question.
Or I should say guided for business park.
Pardon me?
It's guided in the comprehensive plan for
Okay.
business park.
Second question, Mayor, the county's comments talks about a required trail on 69. And then when I go to the project manager, what's her name, Olson, Katie Olson, project manager for Kimley Horn, representing the applicant, number 12. And actually it says it a couple times throughout her comments, that the topography of the site, eastern property edge that abuts 69, the extreme topography and drainage conveying off-site bypass flow, their design team does not believe a trail is feasible in this location. So we've got the county asking for one thing, and the applicants hired experts saying it's not feasible. So somehow we're gonna have to engineer.
Steve?
Mayor and council members, we've discussed at length with county staff the obstacles of building a trail on the west side of County Road 69. And generally, they agree that rather than constructing a trail along County Road 69, that the idea would be to get a sidewalk or trail extended to the southwest corner of this parcel. If I could point on the map, I would, because of the complexity of going up the bluff. So eventually, County Road 69, with a future reconstruction, which isn't on the county's plans right now, that would include improvements, that would include a trail in the future, not part of this project. So as part of this project, the goal is, again, to restate it, is to get a trail from the existing trail that is right in the northwest quadrant of where the roundabout is, right at Colburn. There's an existing trail that comes down on the west side of County Road 69, and then it stops at Colburn. So the goal would be to extend that basically across their property diagonally, either along the city street or around the south side of their development, basically to the, to the west and south portion of this lot, and the county's in agreement with that. So in essence, we're requiring a sidewalk or trail on the south side of the extended city street, so the county would be acceptable to just count that as the trail, as the portion of the trail, rather than have a trail that would go behind their building, kind of going to the same location. So, long explanation, but I hope you understood that.
You know, it's a better explanation than what I expected. I expected maybe this floating above the ground land trail, future technologies type thing or something.
Can you point that out on the map with your cursor?
I think we heard that it would come down on this cul-de-sac.
Right.
And then that cul-de-sac will be extended in the future, so if we get the sidewalk now, and then we'll connect.
Or it would come
Okay.
kitty corner across existing property further to the north and meet up with that sidewalk. So
Right.
at any rate, we're gonna have that connection, which is really what I was after.
And actually, in the long run,
The
it
goal is to get down to here.
might be a benefit of not having the pedestrian traffic on the 69.
So the third question, Mayor, that I had is you have some existing uses on the west side of 69 south of 169. And I didn't see accesses to them properties with the roundabout location. So there's gonna have to be a connection
So
going
on the-
back to the north.
on
And
the
that was
e-
in an earlier plan, by the way.
So you're talking about the uses that are over here?
Right.
So, Mayor and Council, the goal is when this roundabout gets built is to work with this property owner. This is about where their driveway comes down right now,
I'm talking on the west side.
west side.
Yeah,
Oh, here?
you have uses there. Ron's Mechanical is there.
Yep,
and-
so the, Mayor and Council, the plan is, if I can get to the aerial.
On there.
The plan would be to cul-de-sac Colburn right here, and then punch through a new access point on that frontage road so that we don't have conflicting traffic right here.
And that's a road already.
Yes, Colburn's an existing
Right.
road in the township. When this area gets annexed in, it'll be in the city, and then we would have an access point here that would go to this frontage road.
So that would have to be built with this project?
Yes,
Okay.
and the county is in agreement with that.
I just didn't see that documented anywhere, and I thought it would be landlocked at that point.
And Mayor and council members, we had an open house with that neighborhood in conjunction with the developer's open house for the neighborhood. We talked about traffic, roundabout, Colburn, and there wasn't any pushback for doing that. Doing that meaning cul-de-sacing it and redirecting their road to connect to that new frontage road
Right,
that
I just
that
had
the county
nothing
built.
to know that from
Yep.
what I have in front of me. I saw it as landlocked properties. Thank you,
Okay,
Mayor.
so I just want to clarify that for the farmstead that's being parceled off here at 5 acres, they're now going to access obviously through that cul-de-sac that we were just talking about, right?
Mayor and council, that's correct.
Okay.
They actually don't have direct access, but they were obtained an easement access easement to get to that cul-de-sac.
Okay. Other questions of staff?
You know,
Counselor Whiting?
I'm trying to look on this map and see if there is a way that this road will be connecting Mobile Manor from the,
So Mayor and Council, Mobile Manor gets connected right now by this new county road that's up here that comes down. So Colburn will now connect to the Mobile Manor frontage road right
right,
here.
so point out our roundabout now we're talking
The
about.
roundabout's gonna be down here.
Right, so it goes down towards, the road extension goes down towards that, area of Mobile Manor. Looks like on the map to me here, where was that?
So here's
Go through to
the,
the south of Mobile Manor, I think, Jay.
What? Yeah, okay, it's a big chunk.
yep, Mobile Manor's like over here.
Oh, okay, I see where we're at here. It's right down here, so you think you'd almost connect it. Right.
Mayor and council members, I would say that it's not out of the question if Mobile Manor to totally redevelop, it could connect to this new road. It could. But, you know, under the current scenario, they have their frontage road they're connected to. So stay tuned.
I was thinking for emergency purposes or some sort of back exit or something from Mobile Manor, if that were connected, that could change some dynamics on that.
Big difference in use too. that
Yeah.
we could Keep it separated for now until possibly if some redevelopment happen though.
Right.
Other questions? I have a couple. So, this is exciting because it opens up the plan, part of our comp plan of the big ideas for expansion of our business park aspect. So my question on the business park, we can't have heavy industrial here.
Mayor and Council knows, so one of the, to Opus's credit, this would be like Cherney where everything's inside. So we've been working with them and we'll continue to work with them to hopefully find the right tenant mix here, so this is not warehouse and distribution, that this is kind of, something comes in from raw materials, gets changed and comes out as a product on the other end.
And my other question is pertaining to the roadway. Can you go back to the map with the roundabout? In our discussions with 69 and the vacation of the road to the north, actually I want to see the other larger site map. This one? So the roundabout on the northeast corner of this property that is being discussed, but aren't they just having a discussion about having the extension of 17th Avenue come down and drop into 69 and having a roundabout there as well?
Mayor and Council knows, so there would be a roundabout here, there would be, so here's 17th Avenue that would come down and it actually hits about here, and then another roundabout would be at the next intersection at 78.
At 78.
That's in the Scott County CIP, and I think it's 2023, 2024 for
Right,
construction.
no, I remember that. I just wanted to look at
So you have roundabout, intersection, roundabout.
3
A roundabout at this project, an intersection at
intersection.
17th,
Yep,
and then a roundabout at 78.
at 78.
And 17 in the last plan was kind of skirting right along the edge of the bluff. if I
Right, because they
remember.
had to do that, right?
Right.
You don't want them to go.
Yep, the landing point is right at, basically on this property line for 17. So it comes up through here to there.
Right,
Yeah, because you got a topography there.
all right. Further questions on this?
I have one more.
Yes, go ahead,
Is-
Counselor Lehman.
Are there any tenants lined up for these buildings, or are they just gonna build buildings and hope something happens?
I think similar, Mayor and Council, similar to, we've worked pretty hand in glove with Opus over the past 5 or 6 years that we work with them on potential tenants. So that, as of today, they don't have any tenants.
Spec for now.
Question?
No. Good.
Question?
And the applicant is
Yep.
here if you have
Would
any
the
questions.
applicant and/or their representatives like to come forward, make comment on the application? Please state your name and address for the record and welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Joe Mahoney with Opus Development, 10350 Bren Road West in Minnetonka. Pleased to be here tonight. I was actually looking back, and over the years, we've developed about 2 million square feet of industrial business park type product here in the city of Shakopee. So Coming off our latest project with Churney, we're happy to be here with this project. As Michael said, it is speculative today. Given the long lead times, especially precast is around a year, a lot of tenants and users need space a lot quicker than that. So right now we're planning to deliver this project in December of 2023 to give you some sort of standpoint of what we're working with. So we hope over the next 6 to 12 months those users start to come forward, but it will be after we start construction on the project. We try to build these as flexible as possible to appeal to a wide variety of users. We're seeing a lot of activity within the manufacturing and med tech space today. Ultimately, we don't know who will come to the table, but we're looking forward to bringing this project forward. So I'm here to answer any questions that you may have about the project.
Questions of the Opus representative?
Seems a chip manufacturer would be a pretty highly sought-out business.
Yeah, we'd love to have some 500 jobs and high-paying jobs down there, and exciting to see what the marketplace holds here as we rebound. And you're gonna get a pretty nice site here. This whole southern area here, it's pretty exciting for our community based off the availability of big lots and developments for end users.
Eventually, good water pressure.
And we have water pressure.
And Mayor and Council, we have power. That's one of the things
Yeah,
we're
that's
going to be
coming up
working
next
with.
door, yeah.
Mr. Mahoney and his staff with Spucks only putting one transformer in. We've already met with one person that was looking in the market that would have required another transformer. So I think that there's not very many sites that have major power right next to them.
We got sewer, water,
Yeah,
and power.
remind me of sewer again on this kind of, as an arrow kind of line.
Steve?
Mayor and council members, we're under contract and they're ready to build it, so we'll be ahead of their
But
development.
it's right across the street, right?
We're actually, we're stubbing it across County Road 69 as well, but the lift station is on the east side.
That's what I meant, lift station, yeah.
Mayor, isn't there a utility substation right there too?
Yeah, you're right.
Right
I
up
pointed
here.
that out.
Right here.
Yep.
So you should have it all.
Buck here.
You got it
it's
all.
there.
Soon.
All right. If there's no other further questions of the Opus and/or the development, I'm sorry.
No, it
Counselor
wasn't a
Contreras.
question.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
No other questions of staff? Go ahead, Counselor Contreras.
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
On the first one, I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution R 2022-096, approving the preliminary and final plat of River Valley Business Park.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion? 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 All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Counselor Whiting.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 02022-017, amending the zoning map adopted in the city code section 151.003 by rezoning property at 2175 Colburn Drive, west of County Road 69, from agricultural preservation, AG, zone to rural residential, RR, zone, and business park, BP zone.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion, Counselor Lehman.
Mayor, can we pull up that map and show me which portion is gonna be rural residential and which portion is gonna be business park zoning?
Councilmember, it's right on your screen.
Block 1, Block 2 is the residential.
So the
Okay,
salmon color is business park, the green is rural residential. That's the existing homestead.
okay.
Access this way.
Further discussion, I have a motion and a second on the table. I think this is the next big thing for Shakopee is this whole area as we move to the south and to the west. And for our business park that drove through there, our older business park a couple weeks ago, and it's bustling and full. But it's great to have new opportunities, new sites, bigger sites, with raw dirt, so an end user can build what they want. I think that's important in today's world, so I think this is exciting.
I just want to comment too that I appreciate the work that SPUC has done to to bring those utilities in here and to make that area developable.
Right, and ready to go, right?
Yep.
Yep. Further discussion, discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, those opposed, that motion passes. Thank you all very much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
All right. Let's move ahead now to item number 10, 10A, in a workshop format. Ordinance establishing a moratorium on the sale of THC products. And Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. As a reminder, in a workshop, you can feel free to throw things at me, stop me, yell at me, get my attention. It's meant to be it's meant to be very fluid, and if you have questions or anything, please don't hesitate to ask. And I was struggling with how to start this conversation because in my past, I've had the responsibility of writing legislation before and trying to figure out what the consequences of our actions are. So as opposed to me trying to say it, which I might say something that's probably not appropriate, I figured I'd let you know what the League of Minnesota Cities has said about it, and I've actually forwarded this to you, but I think it's a great way of framing the discussion. This new law was a surprise to many stakeholder groups and even to legislators and to cities as a whole, as many were not aware of the full extent of the language authorizations. Many lawmakers were hoping to pass a provision to rein in the selling of Delta 8, a substance manufactured from hemp-derived cannabinoid and that has similar intoxicating effects as to the more commonly known cannabinoid Delta 9. Instead, the language authorized certain amounts of both Delta 8 and Delta 9 in edible CBD products. This legislation was passed in the last days of the session without broad discussion, with the provision added into the Health and Human Services Policy Omnibus Bill. It has been a source of frustration for both stakeholders and legislators as the full impacts of the legislation are realized. So essentially, what happened is that this was passed with not a lot of debate, not a lot of looking at it, and it essentially created a wild, wild west for cannabinoid products under a certain level. And I call it the wild, wild west because quite literally we could sell the products right here in City Hall. We could sell them. You know, I was trying to figure out how the best, you remember the story Green Eggs and Ham where they're trying to get the guy Dr. Seuss, trying to get the guy to try green eggs and ham. And so he has a panoply of things in a train, on a boat, with a goat, with a fox. Literally, all of that stuff you could do with this right now today. So clear, you know, multiple cities. There are a few that are trying to regulate it straight out of the gate. I do not think that's a good idea because the state is going to pass further legislation on this. They're working on it now. They're trying to essentially fix what they've created. We can't sell a beer in City Hall, but we could sell THC products. I find that striking that nobody said, well, wait a minute, what about regulation? What about licensing? You know, none of that was discussed. The majority of cities are in the process of doing just what I brought before you today, to pass a moratorium. So what does that mean? That essentially means that we take up to a year to analyze it, hopefully get some more guidance from the state, but if not, we've got to figure out. By the way, we don't have, at least from my understanding at this point, the ability to say no. We have the ability to regulate, though. And so we literally probably need to look at where this stuff can be sold. I mean, do we want it being sold next to a school? You could do it today. You could sell it out of your house right next to the school. Nothing prevents that. Probably not a good idea. So we need to take a look at it from both a licensing perspective and also from a zoning perspective, and that obviously takes time. And like I said, we, frankly want to see what other cities are doing, and we want to see what further guidance is coming from the state. So essentially, all we're saying is like, all right, give us a year, up to a year, to figure out what we're doing, to figure out what all is entailed in this law, and then move forward from there. And I'll tell you, there's not a lot of answers to questions, because frankly, nobody thought about it. Yeah.
I got a whole host of thoughts on this, and it's like, first of all, you're talking about Delta 8, Delta 9, I don't know what that is, and some other thing that is legal. When you buy a pack of cigarettes, it's got a Minnesota tax stamp on it. So somebody somewhere has opened it up and said, yep, this is the proper product that we're okaying to sell.
That is a great point.
So who is going to decide and regulate and oversee, I mean, you've got FDA for food standards and stuff like this.
Right now.
And how do you make sure that whatever is being sold is actually what it says it is, so that you're not actually buying, poison fentanyl that you drop out dead as you walk out of the place that you purchased it from?
Critical questions.
Okay, let me keep going with my thoughts here. Where it's sold is an easy one for me. I mean, it would be where any other product that society has deemed you don't want children access to, tobacco, alcohol, some of these cough syrups that you make stuff out of, where they're behind a counter, you have to ID, you've got all these other things you have to do. That's a no-brainer to me, okay? So that's the easy part. But who's covering, who's manufacturing, or do you make this stuff at home and then take it to a store and say, hi, this is my Johnny Walker Red, THC, whatever, but nobody really knows what's in it?
As it stands today, that's on the cities.
Well, we don't
Now,
have...
Exactly. How do we do that?
I mean, how do you hire a guinea pig that's willing to take a chance on dying? You don't. It's just not morally acceptable.
And that's been something that a lot of cities have been talking about. We don't have the ability to determine what's in these packages. And the state clearly has to establish some kind of testing procedures or something to be able to, if something's coming into our city, we need to know that it's actually what it says on the label.
Does anybody know where this stuff is coming from currently?
It's manufactured in all the states that are selling it legally. I mean, if you talk about putting it in like liquor stores or sales like that, you could also do it as manufactured product too.
There's cities in Minnesota that you can go to and buy this stuff currently. We can't outlaw the use of it because it's legal to use.
Right.
What we're really dealing with is how do you regulate this sale so that what's actually being sold is actually what it says is being sold, and that it's a safe product, or at least to the point of what the legislation at the state level says it's supposed to be.
That's absolutely correct.
Councilor Brennan?
I think it's interesting that this is coming on the heels of our vaping ordinance that we just approved.
Yeah, because you can't vape flavored, but you can certainly eat edibles.
Right, and so this ordinance is only for the sale of it, for a moratorium on the sale of it. And
Correct.
From what I understand, if we get everything in order and figured out, that we can end the moratorium earlier than 1 year.
Yes, you have the ability to do that.
Okay, and I know that we have neighboring cities that have recently passed this.
Yep.
And I know that Scott County is also discussing this on their areas that they have jurisdiction over. And that's going to be coming back in the near future to their board. So I don't think we have any choice. I mean, it's just too wide open at the moment to just let it go. And
I don't think we're saying that we're opposed to the controlled sale of a legal product. what we're trying to do is get at that controlled piece. What exactly is being sold? How does the consumer know they're getting what they're saying they're buying?
And where?
And, well, I said that's a no-brainer where you sell it.
Essentially, in its base form, we're saying, oh, well, that's a surprise. We need time to take a look at this. Because it really did take everyone by surprise. I mean, we've obviously been looking as cities and the county and, have been looking at what the impact of the legalization of marijuana as a whole would be. And we've been working that issue. But nobody saw this coming. I mean, this was totally out of the blue.
Counselor Whiting?
I oppose the moratoriums on, I don't think the city should jump in and say, hey, our overarching state has made this law. We think it's a mistake. We're gonna stop it in its tracks for at least a year. And of course, leave it to Minnesota to make 3-2 weed. I did research it. It's as low as far as their numbers, and I don't know how they're judging it or testing it, but, and the cost, to get, what you could buy in a Colorado you'd have to eat like 12 of them to 15 of them, and the cost is outrageous, so it doesn't make sense to me. I know it's a wild west, but that's also how things self-regulate too. They find out where their niches are. I know we want to get in front of it so that we don't have people building weed stores and dispensaries before we have any rules around it, but to me, I think the state slipped it in. They didn't want to deal with it in election cycle. They said, we're going to slip it in on the light mode, see what happens.
Well,
and then let everybody else play with it for a while, get used to it. And it's a paradigm shift. I mean, Chief's been, the old weed they've been busting people for weed forever, and that's part of their training, part of the, drug sniffing dogs. And this is a paradigm shift for society. And it'll take a while, and of course, the first instinct is to throw up the wall. Whoa, wait a minute here. As Mr. Lehman said, this is a no-brainer. Go into all the ordinances, say where it says alcohol, and put the legal language, THC and alcohol.
Tobacco.
Or intoxicating substances, whatever the verbiage is.
Yep.
Real simple to me, get it done. Not worry about a moratorium. Just put it on with alcohol sales and alcohol
And tobacco sales.
and bars could
And
technically
say
dispense.
ID checks and these types of things. That's all the easy part. The question for me, Jay, is who's manufacturing it, and how do you know it's actually what it says it is?
I think you need to have a company name on a product that someone could go back and
Does the
sue.
state require that in their
I don't
legislation?
know. I think in our ordinance we should require that it's some name on a product.
We can't supersede and trump state statute.
That's the only
we
reason
don't
why
have
a
that
moratorium,
authority.
I think, would help, so that it could get those questions answered.
We-
But to me,
Right.
letting the thing go and find out where it's gonna fall is also one way of handling it.
That's certainly true. I mean, that's one of the options you have. My concern with that is that if we go down a certain road and the state decides that they're going to do something different, then here we are. I mean, there are communities that are doing that. They basically have said, we're just going to put THC where tobacco is and we'll roll with it. It's certainly something we could do.
Counselor Contreras?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, there's a lot. I tried doing some research, and I was, like Counselor Lehman said, I was so confused with Delta 8, Delta 9. I was like, wait, what? But again, I'm not against the idea of eventually getting to the point of doing what we have to do, but right now, because we don't have all the answers and because I feel that I don't know, and then I was even reading that they do come in different doses, like, they're what is it called, like, yes, like there could be 3, 4, I don't know, there was just different dosages, so like extra strength or not extra strength, that part, so I was like, wait, no, we can't, so until we know more.
Well, I think the state statute has a maximum strength.
Right, and the
Okay,
cannabinoid
right.
is
Right, but there's just so many questions. No, I know, but, I understand, okay.
If it would have been 40 years ago, I'd say, give me just a straight up doobie and I'll get the edibles afterwards.
It's ditchweed.
But
So, I mean,
I'm with Jay actually on this to an extent of maybe you have the sellers are responsible for ensuring the product is what meets state requirements.
Or with state requirements, and I think they have to have a name so they can go after. I mean,
Well,
if you're selling a product, you have to.
Well, let's say we regulate it and say, okay, it has to be like tobacco or alcohol. You have to ID, you have to do these things. And the retailer that wants to pick these up that already does these things, they're responsible to make sure the product meets the state guidelines. And that's the strength thing and stuff like that. And now if there's a problem with the product, it's on the retailer.
Right, we're off the hook.
Jim, I mean, do you know that concept of putting the burden on the retailer, is that?
Well, let me give an example, okay? Cities regulate where alcohol can be sold, right? Cities and states says in grocery stores you can only sell 3.2% liquor, okay? Alcohol, beer, right? Somebody purchases beer at a grocery store, it's not the city's responsibility to see if that has more than 3.2%. That's just not our responsibility. That's another level of responsibility. It's not our responsibility if someone's selling a tobacco cigarettes that doesn't have the stamp on, okay? That's illegal. But what we regulate is where they go, where they can be, and do we want to license those activities? So, but we don't license manufacturing. We don't license the manufacturing of gasoline. We locate a license or regulate where service stations can be located. So I don't think the city's ever going to get involved in regulating the testing or the manufacturing of these products. It's beyond our capability. You don't have the staff to do that. So that's going to, and my understanding is that right now is presumably, it's at the state level. Whether they have the staff to do it is a different question, but it's certainly not the city's responsibility now to determine whether these products are in the right size packages or contain the right doses. So that is something in the long run you won't be able to regulate anyway, in my opinion. So but to answer Mr. Reynolds' question, yes, ultimately it's up to the retailer to make sure they're selling a lawful product, but I don't think it's the city's, in most cases, it's not the city's ability to check into that. It's some higher or different level of government that does that.
Without regulating or putting a license on it, you would have no idea who is selling it, or anybody could.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, really all we need to be focused on is the access and location. Who has access to these products?
Where do you want them to be sold? You know, do you want to, as Mr. Reynolds said, you know, you probably want to restrict, you don't want Bill selling these things at City Hall, right? So, I mean, you know, so you can.
Well, wait a minute, what's the markup?
Well, let's not forget, you know, we got Sand Venture coming up, and this could be a revenue stream, so.
So that's what you're going to be looking at. Right now, he's right, it could be sold at a convenience store, it could be sold anywhere. And the question is, do you want to
It seems to me
get
then,
licensing to?
it seems to me then, the question is where and oversight. So you want it at a location that currently is able to sell cigarettes and alcohol, and they have to be carding people to make sure they're of age to be able to purchase this product.
Yeah, and that's something that we would be responsible for. The Board of Pharmacy has the responsibility overall, but they basically said that's up to the cities to regulate.
And that's why the license, you know where they're going, you know what they're selling.
Right.
And Mr. Mayor, if I may, it's clearly up to the council whether you want to do a moratorium or not. One of the advantages of a moratorium is it stops it now temporarily, okay? If you don't do a moratorium and it takes you 3 months, 6 months to put a regulation in place, there's an issue of grandfathering rights. If a business does start selling these in a location where ultimately you don't want it to be sold, under a zoning principle, they have vested rights. Now, they don't get vested rights for licensing most of the time. So that's the one advantage of a moratorium, is it says time out, and nobody could come in and say, and I also want to point out specifically, nothing in this moratorium regulates the current lawful sales of products that you could sell before this law was passed. So we're not retroactively going back. So that's just one advantage of a moratorium.
Well, they could sell it out of a truck and nothing you can do about it. So even with the moratorium, they would be able to do that.
No, that's not true. On the moratorium, you're prohibiting the sales of this product anywhere in the city. Moratorium stops the sale of these products in the city during the time period of the moratorium.
I don't know that we have the authority to trump state statute. State statute says it's a legal product.
Yeah, that's my problem with it.
Yeah.
Well, I guess my take, just a little, I'm in obviously a peer group of my mayor friends in Scott County alone. 5 of the 6 major cities are taking this subject up. One is actually, as Mr. Reynolds said, Prior Lake passed it the other day. A lot of cities are struggling with it, and even the League of Minnesota Cities on how to guide cities on how to do this. I look at it as, first of all, Minnesota, the state of Minnesota's come a long way than where it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. But it does concern a little public health to me. There was a violent death involved, and it was a mixture of gummies and alcohol, so I will say that. But the guy said he took 8 at one time. And they're, you know, if you're going to say they're light beer, he took 8 light beers at once, and in this state a couple weeks ago. So I think to try to decide where and to regulate, I think a timeout is, because I've read all the articles, I've talked to my peer group, there's just too much uncertainty, rather than, and I agree with the city attorney, that if we fail to take action or don't do anything, we might have a problem down the line 3-6 months when we decide on where and how and what, that it's already established. And I think this is sensible. You know, you look at moratoriums, we had years ago had a moratorium on building lot developments. Cities have had moratoriums on certain uses until they can get a handle on it. You know, these are 2 land use issues, but I think moratorium, and maybe it takes 6 months, maybe it takes 3, maybe it takes 9. We can always, if we get our act together, we can always say, hey, this is a good ordinance. We've talked about it in a workshop. We've worked it over a couple times. And then we can enact an ordinance and lift the moratorium.
I think we could move to licensing within the week.
Right.
Well, I think the drawback I think the other drawback is, okay, let's say you move forward with licensing and you put it in existing locations that have tobacco or liquor licenses, but no new locations without going through a formal licensing process. The problem with that theory then is, let's say the state legislator comes back and repeals what they just adopted.
Well, then it's no, yeah.
It's not null, because the ones that are existing get to stay, they're grandfathered in, according to Mr. Thompson.
Legal
No,
non-conforming.
the state changes their rule.
I don't know the answer to that question. That's above my pay grade, I guess.
Well, and the reality is there just are a slew of unanswered questions, and nobody understands what the implications are. And, you know, from a staff perspective, we'd like the opportunity to get our heads around it and frankly talk with other cities, because like I said, this came out of the blue. Nobody had any idea that this was coming up, and it really, it was slipped in, and ta-da, 1 July, it's now law, and now we've got to try to figure out how to deal with it.
I think, you know, on a council like this and being involved in a city, we're kind of charged with making decisions, yes or no. But I think at times there's a time to take a step back and take a breath. I do a lot of research. It's pretty vague out there what this thing is and what the effects are and where and how and what. There's nothing. I'd like to take a pause and take a step back and try to learn more, so that we can make a better decision and balance that out moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. You know, that's pretty specific in here on what the moratorium is for, and it's for the impact on the sale within the city, licensing and zoning. And since the 1 year can be shortened at any time, I think that's acceptable. I do have concerns about us being an island without a moratorium and having businesses knowing that they can't go to our sister or neighboring cities, but they'll come here, and then we have it and we can't back out of it. So I think we.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. I want to jump back to talk about that for a second.
So, yeah, so that, I guess that's where I want to go. Go ahead.
Okay, no, I just saying, because kind of a history of Shakopee, if you think of Prohibition, Shakopee didn't shut down for Prohibition. Horse racing, we were like the first to say that people were not happy about racing, gambling on racing. The casino, the people didn't like that. It was different, we didn't do that before. We're changing things now. We are an entertainment mecca. Now, the only article I did pick up was a Shakopee article on the concert, the Summer Jam, I think it was, if that was the one, where they had a THC tent and raking in a lot of money, I guess. I don't know if there was any issues that, I didn't hear of any issues that were reported anyway, but I think licensing is no, but I think licensing should be the goal, and I don't think it should take that much time.
All right.
Well, ultimately, licensing and zoning are the goals, because we can't say, no, you can't do this.
Right.
It's all about trying to figure out where.
Where and how, and
how.
I think that's the easy part. I think it's wherever alcohol and tobacco and other adult stuff are sold to where they have to be carded, and then it falls right into the penalties of the tobacco sales and the alcohol sales. You got your compliance checks, and this time you get a fine, next time you lose your license, blah blah blah. We've got that policy already established. Right. So,
and that's the option a lot of cities. Right. I shouldn't say a lot, but the cities that are moving forward, they're basically doing that.
And my comment about the guy that took 8 at a time. I mean, obviously, that's my example of we're not really sure. There's no testing. It's not like a DWI. And we're not going to be able to regulate how many people take, and I get that.
And there's people that drink themselves into a coma and get pulled over with a 5.0 or 0.50 or whatever it is, and they're like, you shouldn't even be alive, and they're walking a straight line.
Councilor Contreras? Oh.
Ms. Peterson. Go ahead.
No, I was trying to get his attention.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chelsea.
Additionally, and Mr. Reynolds, sorry if you were going to get to this, along with this at the next meeting, we were going to bring back, we've identified some somewhat simple language changes to our employee drug and alcohol testing policy, because it obviously does not address any of this. And to the points that have been made tonight, the substance is legal in the state of Minnesota, whether they buy it here or elsewhere. So we've identified some, again, simple language changes that'll kind of cover us from an employee
in the employee handbook.
Yep.
Yeah.
Can we, let's just, Chief, why don't you give us an overview of the situation at hand?
Mayor, members of council, good evening. I was just thumbing through what the League of Minnesota Cities put out here. There's 21 some odd questions that were asked, kind of frequently asked questions. And when you go through here, there's a lot of, may want to consider, waiting for more information, got to work more with the county attorney's office, may be possible for a city to do this. I think that again speaks to why a pause might be good. I did want to highlight one thing in here to the question about where this is sold and should be sold at liquor stores and so forth. According to this document, it's not allowed for sale at an exclusive liquor store under the current law. Again, this is part of why this needs to go back to the legislature and all this needs to be cleaned up. I don't think it's good public policy if we have all this cloud out there and questions. I'm concerned about pop-up sales. Yes, there was the tent at Twin Cities Summer Jam. I did not see the line for that nearly as bad as some of the other vendors, so I don't know about raking in the money, but I do remember one of the quotes, and I don't remember it specifically, I'm paraphrasing here, that the guy that was quoted in the article said, well, we're just kind of learning as we go. Okay, so a timeout here. to see what best practices are, and so there is something clear in what's good public policy and in the best interest of the city of Shakopee, our residents, businesses moving forward. But yeah, right, according to this, your normal liquor store could not sell it.
And in defense to the pop-up at Summer Jam, we had 0 arrests, so maybe it just calmed everybody down.
We had plenty of unruly and inebriated people, but.
Think of all the
we were
pizza
able
joints
to-
we got.
Good job de-escalating that.
Benefits of a controlled substance is it's controlled. You know, it's kind of like the doctor giving you a prescription for something. You've got something that's controlled. The black market society, you don't know what you're getting, okay? So there is actually a benefit to society by having a controlled product and over just you don't know what you're getting. And I can't figure for the life of me why they would specifically say you can't sell this product at a place that has the experience of being able to make sure the buyer is actually of age and not intoxicated.
There is a reason for that. The reason for that is, in state law, they specifically list what a liquor store can sell. That's why they can sell corkscrews, you know, incidental, but they can't sell bread, okay? They can't sell milk. They list exactly the types of things you can sell in the liquor store, and because this isn't in that list, that's why they can't sell it, right?
I suspect that'll change.
It might, but it's gonna take a statutory change to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Well,
right.
let me ask this, is there any other places that they listed that it can't be sold at, other than the liquor store?
That's the only, I mean, there's not many businesses where the state legislature says, these are the only things you can sell. There are some that say these are things you can't sell. For example, the grocery store can't sell, you know, strong beer. So there, but I can't think of another example. There probably are out there where the state says, this is all you can sell in this store.
Did the
It might be
state-
something on cigarettes,
Did
I'm
the
not
state
sure.
do the same to a standalone tobacco establishment?
I think they could.
Did they?
I don't think there's some, I'd have to double check that. I'm not sure there's something in the statute that says lists the things you can sell. I don't know the answer to that.
So if we were to say we're gonna sell this product at where tobacco is sold,
I'm guessing that would probably be okay. But if you were to say, and you can sell it in an exclusive liquor store, I think that would be in conflict with the state law.
That's the liquor law, not the
The
cannabis
Not this
law.
law, the liquor law.
well,
right.
but the problem there is the liquor store sells tobacco also.
Well, if that's because it's listed as something they can sell then.
Laura?
Yeah, that would be my question then too, is we have businesses that have both. They have liquor licenses and they have tobacco licenses. And what would the state say? Is that going to be a conflict then? You know, that's why this moratorium, in my opinion, would be beneficial. It would give us more time to find out and ask those questions so that when we decide which businesses or where we're going to license it, we know that we're licensing properly and we're not having to backpedal or rearrange again the licensing. Because then we're having businesses that we've licensed and now we're saying now we have to take it back because by state law, it's not allowed. So,
And from what I understand, like breweries can infuse the beer with the product. And at that point, are they able to sell that product if it's not a liquor store or have a liquor license or?
Yeah, and that actually is something that there's a disagreement on. From what I understand, some people say that that is not covered in the law, and you can't infuse the beer with that, although there are some breweries that are currently doing it, in the process of doing it.
You can probably infuse it, you just can't sell it.
Well, I mean, look at the evolution of it all, of, you know, back in the day, I heard you smoked it in the pipe and then the joint, and now it's a gummy. I mean, 20 years later, I mean, it's coming, they're shaping it differently, and whether they can infuse alcohol or not. I just feel at this point, too many unanswered questions, and for the quality of life of our community, I'd like to take a pause, learn more, see if someone can get a league or someone can get a model ordinance. I know this is or gonna be talked about at scale.
I suppose the candy aisle is probably out.
I would think so. Counselor Whiting?
One, you know, we had talked, you mentioned the vaping ordinance, and to me, the vaping ordinance was specifically because it was directed at kids, and to me, the cherry flavors and the bubble gums and stuff, whatever, was directly going towards kids. So I could see putting a hold on that. This is different. This is adults, in my mind, making that choice. So that's the difference there. You know, when I came in here, I kind of decided that, you know, I didn't want to have any part of the moratorium, and I don't like moratoriums in any way, but I understand where staff is coming from. There's just no answers here, and too many questions.
But Jay, you also have to worry, the same thing was discussed with alcohol, okay? So you've got alcohol sales. How do you make sure that somebody isn't buying the alcohol and giving it to a minor? Now you have the exact same situation with a different product.
But that's not our concern here.
Well,
I mean, it should be, it is our concern.
It is,
And when we come up with a license, we'll address that.
It was actually addressed under a county ordinance, social host
Social
ordinance.
host.
So that actually was an issue, and there was a solution created. So, and there are penalties for an adult buying alcohol for a juvenile. That's, there's laws against
Look at our social host ordinance, too.
Mayor?
Counselor Contreras?
Thank you. I just feel that if we have staff and if we have our police chief who are asking us to hold this, I mean, eventually they'll be the ones doing the work. We just, you know, as a body decide, I feel that we should. We need to do this moratorium and buy us some time. They're asking us, and I feel that's the right thing we should do.
We're not saying no.
Right, we're not saying no.
It's gonna be a full year because you're not gonna get any action until after the election. Stuff gets settled in and it'll get thrown on a back shelf somewhere and it'll be a problem for years to come.
This got
probably.
passed on a wink and a nod.
Yep.
Jim?
I just want to remind you, this is not for adoption tonight. We're just looking
Right,
for,
right.
because we haven't posted this ordinance on the webpage, I'm assuming.
Right.
And so what I'm hearing is there's at least 3 members of the council that would like to move forward. So if I'm hearing it correctly,
Yep.
as Mr. Reynolds said, we'd bring this back before you at your August 16th meeting for adoption at that time, and you could certainly debate it more then if you'd like.
Counselor Brennan, are you in favor of the moratorium?
Yeah.
Counselor Lehman?
I'm not willing to go as far as this moratorium, but I'm okay with taking our time. You know, I don't have a problem with a moratorium, but I think waiting for a year is probably, I'm kind of looking at where would we put it, and there's 10,000 questions to that because you can't put it in a liquor store. Maybe you can if they got a tobacco license. Not sure that either. So there seems to be a lot of research that needs to be done here.
So why don't, no offense, but if we need to do research and figure out where and how and what, all those things and those
We need
questions,
time.
why don't we have the moratorium, learn those things? The minute we can dial that in, we can lift the moratorium.
Yeah, I don't know about putting a date on it,
All
or
right.
a timeline. I think we say we're not going to allow this until we get these questions answered.
Does it,
Counselor Whiting?
yeah, to address that point, Jim, if you could,
Yeah, you can't do that because the state law says a moratorium's only good for up to a year.
Yeah.
So, and the
have
reason
to have a
why,
date
the
certain.
reason why you give yourself up to a year is that if you only give yourself 6 months, and you can do that, to extend it, if you need 6 more months, it's virtually impossible to do. There's too many findings you have to make to extend it. So that's why we drafted it as up to a year. You can always cut it short if you want to.
and the other benefit to that is if we see movement and we see things happen and we see other, because I'm going to be looking at other communities and see how they're licensing and what they're doing. And this is a topic that all cities are dealing with right now. So even in 2 weeks' time, I mean, I don't know what'll happen in 2 weeks, but, you know, in that time period, and also the league is working the issue, you know, we may have more answers to some of these questions in just a couple weeks, so.
Counselor Whiting, are you in favor of the moratorium or not?
I wish we could just get this done, taken care of within a few weeks. I don't see it happening. I want to put some markers out there saying I want staff to get this done quickly. I can see it sitting on a shelf for a year. That's the problem. I think,
that a
I
yes
think,
or no?
I'm
trying to build
still,
consensus here,
I think
sorry.
I'll hold it. I'm in the middle. I understand we want to put some rules around it and bookend it with some policy. So I'm not quite there on the moratorium.
That's fine. That is fine. Counselor Contreras?
I agree.
And I am in favor of it too, and I balance out my counterparts here that kind of on the fence here. I think we can put this in place. I think we can learn here quickly. I don't believe it'll be put on the shelf. This is a hot topic with my peer group as mayors in Scott County and all over the metro. It's a hot topic with the police chiefs, the city administrators. Everybody's on this. There's an article every day. Let's learn more. Let's take slow and do it right. I think if we don't do anything and it comes in our community, I think we have a bigger problem moving forward, but.
And that's much piggybacking off what Lori said, you know, we don't want to jerk people around.
Right.
You know, we want to say, okay, this is it, and then we can give some, because quite possibly could be that they're making investments and making decisions based upon what we're saying, and then things change. And that's a terrible place to be in for government.
All right, I think we have enough consensus here. 3 of this board is in favor of a moratorium as I read the table.
Well, and we'll bring it back next week, and it won't be on consent because obviously we'll probably need to discuss it some more then. Great.
Enough direction. Councilors, I very much enjoyed the workshop roundtable discussion on this. I think it's pretty healthy, and thank you.
There is a benefit to controlled substance and uncontrolled substance. So that part of it, I think, is a
We
good
got
idea.
both. Don't worry about
Well,
it.
I think it's a good idea because now maybe you have society going to a controlled substance that's more regulated. It's just that the state didn't do a very good job with this, that's for sure.
All right, thank you.
Sorry.
Let's move forward. Item 11A is a city bill list that's before us. Questions, comments? Questions, comments on the bill list? All right, let's move forward then to 11B, Liaison and Administration Report. Counselor Contreras, we'll start down here.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have an official liaison report, but I did attend 3 things I just wanted to quickly run through. So I went to the Manna ribbon cutting, delicious pizza, FYI. I also attended the firefighter swear-in, firefighter Jackson. I can't say his last name, sorry. And then last night, Night to Unite. It was a great night, nice and warm, but all our hosts there offered water, so thank you for that. Had a great time, met tons of people, friends I know, and tons of new ones I made, and you say it all the time, we have a vibrant community, and we are more united than we sometimes think, so I love it. And thank you to the Shakopee Police Department for taking us out there, keeping us safe. There's nothing bad out there. I mean, we were all safe all the time, but thank you for sending your officers out with us too. That's it. Thank you, sir.
Counselor, thank you very much. Counselor Whiting?
Thank you. Also attended the Manna ribbon cutting and opening. That was good. Got to enjoy the old city council chambers, now a bar, I think. Perfect. But we should do that here. But anyway, and then we had the firefighter swearing in was also part of that. Night to Unite, my freeze pops went over real well last night.
Yes.
So they were a hot ticket on a cold ticket on a hot night. MVTA met last week. Did some of our incidental stuff, but one of the items I thought, we had one bidder for the County Road 42 bus rapid transit study that we're looking at, but it is one of our engineering firms that we're familiar with, so they would be one of them that would have to do it anyway. And then looked at ridership is actually up. Downtown is, if you're driving down there, is busy, so steady growth. I don't think we're quite where we were, but definite steady growth, so that's good news. Also, MVTA is going to be hosting the bus rodeo operator competition out at the Apple Valley Transit Station on August 6th. If you want to attend, I think you probably go watch that. I think the rodeo competition is 8 to 10. And then we'll be doing some employee recognition as well out there. But that's what I have.
Counselor, thank you very much. Counselor Lehman?
RTF Exec Board, quick meeting was the temporary appointment of manager for the RTF training facility, pending a background investigation and passage and all that stuff. It's a temporary position, mid-range pay, no benefits, could be eligible for a future full-time position once that is figured out what that job description might be after the study is completed on what the future vision of that facility and use would be. So that's kind of a holding pattern to get Mike Breeze to be able to retire. He's been trying to retire for quite a while now. Poor guy. He's going to stick around for a couple of months to help out, get this person comfortable with the operations and stuff. I know that we have a presence from staff on that visioning process of what the future is of the RTF with, I think, the police department, the fire department are involved in that. I don't know if other staff members are. I think Reynolds might have his ear in it, but I'm actually pretty curious of what that study says too, because, you know, there are good opportunities for that facility, and there's also some wrong directions that facility can go that could cost us.
The Bed and Brewery is not going to go over out there, huh?
Well, so I'm curious to see where that goes. I mean, the original inception of that facility, as you might recall, is, you know, we're gonna grow the usage from non-membership and build the membership base up so that the original founding members wouldn't be burdened with paying too much, and depending on where it goes, we could see a substantial increase in our participation, which I'm not necessarily in favor for. But then again, let's see what that visioning and future uses might be. Let's see what kind of thoughts our users, our fire and police have, and let's see where it falls, and we'll have to make future decisions once we have more information.
Yeah, just to comment, I think when I was on the board of the RTF, I think that when they lost the Police Academy College, I think it was Rasmussen College, was out there for a while. Some of those courses, that was quite a loss, I think, for them.
Well, I think one of the, you know, and the timing seems to be everything. You know, we all know that the last 2 years with the virus and COVID and stuff, that really put a damper on these classroom type settings and stuff like that, really hit the revenue side. So how do you diversify from that? You know, maybe it's technology upgrades, maybe it's looking at multiple different things. You know, I don't have the answers for that. I mean, my mind wanders on some of that stuff. You know, at one point, and I talked to Mr. Reynolds about there's such a need for immediate, like, homeless type shelter, but there's a facility that could possibly be used for it, and there's cops around the facility, which is kind of handy, and there's firefighters and stuff that use it. But I don't know. We'll let the process work its way and see what's looked at, and then we'll discuss the various things that were looked at, and we'll not only discuss it amongst us, but we'll discuss it with our staff members that might have some ideas that they're thinking about, and maybe they have some concerns too. So we'll just see where it goes and have the future discussion. At least we've got somebody that can currently operate it while we're in this interim period.
I think the Bed and Brewery would get the firemen out there.
Counselor, thank you. Counselor Brennan?
Well, I also attended the Manna ribbon cutting and the Jersey Mike ribbon cutting, and that was delicious. And welcome to the community. And Night to Unite, I think the biggest conversations that I had was about our parks, and people just really love our parks. Especially the new Jennifer Lane Park is like a hit. They love the basketball, I can't remember what it's called. They love that. They love it. I heard so many comments about that activity. So good job to park planning, because that's a well-loved one. Let's see, the SPEC met on Monday, and we talked about the fact that there was an extremely hot, early hot weather in June. And in June, there was a peak of 114 megawatts that were sold on one day, and that was their record
Yeah.
amount.
Yeah.
And we pay a demand charge when we do that to our wholesale supplier. And then the PCA charge that we collect from the users or the ratepayers is collected by SPU and then passed through to the wholesale supplier. So this month, a lot of people have seen a large increase in their bill, and it really is based on that PCA rate and then the use.
Sorry,
And the use.
PCA.
I can't.
Power cost adjustment.
Power
right?
cost adjustment.
So as people had that
Yeah.
air conditioning turned on for that record high heat that we had in June, their bill goes up. And there was a lot of conversations on social media about, there's another city nearby that is only paying this amount, we have to pay this amount. Well, we don't know if that includes, we're a utility that includes water, and then the bill is also with sewer and stormwater. So it's hard to say that, when it's $300 higher, well, it's, we have other things that are included in our bill. So it's not really a good comparison for
I'll
that.
start asking if their grass is green. That means been watering it a lot, and there's a cost for that too.
That's very true. And anyways, we also talked about budget billing. And budget billing is the average of 12 months that a homeowner is in their house. And then they determine what that average is, and then they collect that over the next 12 months. And then after that 12 months expires, then they make an adjustment and recalculate what their new rate is. And that's available for people if they want to contact the SPU customer service. I think that's it. I know we had a big outage last night. I don't have any numbers on that. But I did hear when I came in tonight that we would thank Public Works. Also thank you to the police and fire and the SPU for all the hard work that they put into it. Let's see. I also attended the county board meeting on Tuesday after our morning. And the majority of the meeting was on the update on their ARPA fund and their different projects for the ARPA funds. And I think that's all I got.
Counselor, thank you very much for your update. I do appreciate that, and my SPUC bill was very high. Thank you. For my mayor's report, the donation for the swim program that's a couple years in the making, and now the impact and hearing from users, that just really warms my heart. Night to Unite last night, for our community, I don't know how many parties we had, but people getting together outside, talking with your neighbors. We just need, in America and Shakopee, we just need more of that. Really brings people together. I think every year we all embrace it, and I think the people embrace it. And so I think we do as a city go out with the fire department, police department, us, and the staff, and I think it's important. I think it's important to our residents. It's really one of those it's what makes our community the best. After the hot Night to Unite, we had a storm, and I got a memo. We all got the little review from Bill Reynolds. Thank you to our outstanding Public Works Department and SPUC, restoring the power and cleaning up the city. That's a pretty good job. Also, I think we had some more graffiti, and maybe Mr. Reynolds will talk about it. It just irks me that that type of vandalism and and the money and the effort, but I just wanted to make a mention of that. So, a couple things to look forward to. Park and Rec Department, the big carnival coming up this Friday, August 5th from 10 to 11:15 at Lions Park on Friday. Don't forget, we have movie night in Huber Park. It looks like Sing 2, Saturday, August 13th. Movie starts at dusk, and the admission is free, and those are good little events. And also the one that was postponed, the Pirate Treasure Hunt was postponed, but is coming up August 21st from 11 to 2 at Sand Venture on Sunday, August 21st. And those are really my comments, and remember to get out and vote next Tuesday for the primary. Now, moving forward to our administration report. Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Night to Unite, always a great experience. I always take it as an opportunity to remind our community of two very important things. Which city has one of the lowest tax rates in the metro area? Which city has an extremely low crime rate, and who this year is on the verge of having a record low crime year? Well, of course, the answer to both of those are Shakopee, and, you know, people, you know, seeing their expressions sometimes are like, really? I'm like, oh yeah, no, this is true. So anyway, Night to Unite, just a great event all the time. And hats off to Chief Tate and his people who basically put that together, and you know, it is the foundation of once again, our outstanding police department who is out there making inroads and connections to our communities, and just a signature event here in Shakopee. Two things other than that. Sand Venture. As we often talk about, our capital improvement program can shift. You see it here today, and this is what our plans are. Well, let's talk about a shift with Sand Venture. Staff has been working on this now for many months, and the realization is in order to try to make this work in the time period that we have, we're essentially going to have to push the renovations of Sand Venture back to 2024 as opposed to doing them in the break in 2023. We still have some groundwork to do. We still have some things we have to figure out, and then frankly, we really need to have a full-fledged plan, so as soon as it's closed, we're in the process of the destruction part so we can then get it ready for moving on. So you will not see construction of Sand Venture in 2023. My undying hope is that we can keep the Band-Aids on it through the next season, but then we'll move forward from there in 2024. And the final thing is that I was having lunch with a city administrator that I'm very familiar with in the southern part of the state last weekend, and she told me about this program that she was putting in place that frankly I had never even thought of. And I said, what a great idea. I'm stealing that. And that is essentially having a candidate, not a forum, but a candidate presentation where we as city staff can inform candidates of what we do, what we're responsible for, how the organization as a whole works. I mean, it's all going to be very high level. But it then gives everyone an understanding as they're out there campaigning as to what it is that is correct and factual about the city, and you know, sometimes you hear, well, the school district this, the school district that. Well, as you all know, we have zero to do with the school district. You know, and you just read stuff and you're like, ugh, well, that's not really what we do. But, you know, but the whole point is try to give all candidates an understanding as to what it is so they can then talk about those issues that they find and go from there. It will be open to all candidates, and, you know, the hope of it would be that everyone would want to participate, and it would essentially be a very high-level take from me and Chelsea, and then 5 or 10 minutes with each department head so they can just, and it also identifies issues. It's like, yeah, we have some issues. These are the issues that we have in the department currently. That particular administrator forwarded me her PowerPoint, so I'm looking at it right now. And so once the the closure comes for putting your name in the hat, we'll start looking at some dates and hopefully have people come in and want to hear it. So that's all I have.
You said San Venture, I was just gonna say how much.
That answer, yes.
Seems like they were spending money all the time.
That's not a question I want
You
to
gotta
answer.
rename it Sand Venture Capital.
I'm telling you, selling these edibles, you know, that could be a,
Available at City Hall at about $1.2 million markup.
Mr. Reynolds, thank you very much for your administration report. Item number 12, is there any other business before this board, Councilor Lehman?
Mayor, I just have one. I thought a thank you to both the Shakopee Public Utilities, Police Department, Fire Department, Public Works. I was really impressed at the speed at which the power was back on, considering what they had to work with at the utility in so many different areas all at the same time. Cleaning up the roads and stuff. It was, and I looked at it from a battle zone because it seems like my neighborhood just got slaughtered.
your neighborhood took a hit.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure what happened.
The hill
Maybe
there,
the storm, maybe the wind just got an extra burst or
The
something.
Charlie Brown tree survived though, didn't it?
Oh, yeah, my little 4-foot
Yeah.
city dead tree,
Yeah.
that did just fine.
Yeah, no, your neighborhood did take a hit, no doubt about that.
Our neighborhood did take a hit, and I drove around, and there was other little pockets in the community too, but the speed at which it got cleaned up and back up online and stuff, I mean, it was pretty amazing when I compare it to the last major storm that, blew through. So kudos to all involved. I just wanted to say thank you to all them folks.
Councilor Whiting?
I'll quickly agree with that, but one thing that I did notice, and I just want to put out there, notice one little roadway picking up a lot more truck parking and trailer parking. And as a community, people don't want them on their roads, but as we develop towards the west in some of these commercial areas, we should think of, as a community, maybe adding that extra side of the road to these industrial areas, so there is truck parking for overnight. You don't want them in your community, in your residential areas, but you need a place to park these big vehicles.
Well, every weekend, there's at least 30 to 32 trucks over by the grain elevator.
Yep.
It's quite a
And
lineup,
that's the
and
one I'm
that's a
thinking
good
of.
spot. I mean, because
I was about to say, if you want them, if you're gonna have them, that is the best place to
Right.
have them.
But that's filling up,
Yeah.
I'm noticing
Yep.
quickly, but as
Yep.
we grow, we should think of that more, and that's just my only thought for the day.
Counselor, any other business? Any other business? If not, Counselor Brennan?
Motion to adjourn to Tuesday, August 16th at 7:00 PM.
I have a motion and a second. Okay, they were gonna jump in there. Further discussion? 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 All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. We are adjourned at 8:57.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Can I see?